Hi everyone, this is the start of a new weekly reading vlog. Let's quickly go through the books that I think I'm going to be reading in this vlog, and then later we can see if I, diverge from this TBR or not. I probably will. But I'm currently about 60% of the way through The Princess Stakes by Amelia Howard. Two very exciting books that I got from the library recently are The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson and A Terribly Nasty Business by Julia Seals. People have been eating this up. Everyone is giving this 5 stars. I've seen so many people have this as one of their top books of the year. This is a dark academia fantasy novel. I believe there's a strong murder mystery component, and we're also at a school. Very fun. And then A Terribly Nasty Business is a historical mystery book, very like Regency, Jane Austen vibes. We have a young woman protagonist who is obsessed with solving murders or true crime, whatever she can get her hands on having to do with murder and crime. She's obsessed. My friend Sarah and I are planning on buddy reading Fear the Flames, and we might start this week. I'm not completely sure. And then my friend Emily and I are planning on buddy reading A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana, which just came out. I do have the audiobook on Libra FM, so I'm gonna start that I think tomorrow on my way to work. So stay tuned to see all of the books that I read in this weekly / maybe 2 weekly reading vlog. Hi friends, I have dinner cooking behind me, but I wanted to give you an update. So today's Tuesday. I filmed the intro on Sunday, and since then I have started 2 books and I have not made any progress in The Princess Stakes. First I started The Raven Scholar, and I don't quite have a concise plot for it just because I'm only 45 pages in and I didn't read the synopsis, so I kind of like to be surprised a little. I'm sure that I heard the synopsis at one point in the past, but I've forgotten the details. So far I have hope that it's going to be a book that I really like. I don't know that it's giving me oh my god, this is an all-time favorite fantasy book feeling, but I do think that it's well written. The setting kind of reminds me of a mix of East Asian and Western Europe vibes kind of put together. Yeah, it's interesting because the first few chapters are following this brother and sister pair, mostly the sister, and then the next chapter is from a completely different perspective. And I did glance at the beginning of the synopsis, and it seems like the second girl is going to be more the focus of the story rather than this brother and sister pair we met at the beginning. So that was kind of an interesting choice to kind of introduce us to 2 characters at the beginning who aren't actually our main perspective. And then I did start A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping on audio, and this is about a woman who is now 30. And when she was 15, she had her magic stolen away from her because she performed a spell that was too powerful for her body to kind of be able to handle. And so as a result, she's kind of depleted of magic. And she and her aunt, who is this elderly but fun Indian woman, run this inn that's kind of infused with little magical quirks. So Sarah doesn't have her full magical powers. She has a few abilities to do small little things, but she was once a very powerful and promising witch. There is a kind of governing body and also a school of witches in this world that we reference a lot in the story, and she was one of the most promising pupils there before she lost her magic. This story is kind of about her journey dealing with that and also trying to get her powers back. And she has this connection with all of these misfits who board at this inn. It's more of like a boarding house than an inn. It's not that people are just coming and going and coming and going. There are some like quirky, wholesome characters who just stay there, like, you know, indefinitely. And our love interest is someone who knows about magic. He is a magician himself. Would you call him a witch or a warlock? I don't know. He's magical. And he and his sister, who is autistic, who he's caring for, find this inn one dark night as they're traveling, because when Sarah was young, she cast this spell on the inn that people who need the inn will find it, and it also kind of repels assholes from coming to the inn. So it's kind of like everyone who comes to the inn is like a nice person and also often a needy person. So there is a talking fox, there is a resurrected rooster companion that she has. There are a number of like quirky, wholesome people who stay at the inn, and now we have this new love interest in his sister. So that's where I'm at. I think I'm about 25% through. Oh, I'm actually way further than that. I'm 36% of the way through. Okay, I will update you next time I have something to say about one of my books. It is Wednesday at 11ish. I actually decided to stay home from work today because I wasn't feeling great, but you know what you can do when you're not feeling great sometimes is read. So we're gonna do a bit of a lazy girl reading sprint. I just want to see how many pages of this book I can read today. I'm not going to be like pushing myself to read, you know, as much as mentally and physically possible. I'm just going to see how many pages I read naturally while enjoying my time. I'm not going to force myself to, you know, keep reading for a super long time if I want to stop. I'm hoping that the plot and the story will really pull me in. I told you a little bit about this last night, but I think I can give more of a basic plot now. I did end up reading the full synopsis that the book gives you. So basically we're in an empire called Oran or Aran, and there is going to be this competition. In this world there are these 8 like godlike figures. So there's like a tiger and an ox and a dragon, things like that. 8 of them total, and that's kind of what the religious system is based around. And so there are going to be, I believe, 8 contestants from these different religious sects, these different monasteries who have been training to compete in this competition. The current emperor is stepping down, and at this competition we know from the synopsis that one of them is going to be murdered, and the main character Nima is this like scholar high up in the court. She's very brilliant, and she's going to be tasked with trying to solve this murder. I ended up getting to page 66 last night, which is part 2, chapter 6, and I haven't actually gotten to the murder yet, so hopefully we get into the competition really soon and the murder happens. I do love a murder mystery. I used to read a lot more mysteries than I do now. I've been in such a fantasy and romance mood that anytime I've tried to like pick up a mystery, I'm like too bored. But I think a mystery in a fantasy book like this could be really fun. So we're starting Wednesday off at page 66, and let's see where I get to at the end of the day. Somebody has done my girl Nima so dirty, and I'm gonna need for her to get some sweet, sweet revenge in this book, or else I'm gonna be upset. Later in the afternoon, I'm on page 122, and somebody did my girl dirty, and I'm mad about it. And Nima is such an easy character to love. She is an underdog because she is a woman of color, which isn't really like explicitly said that, you know, that makes a difference in this world, but like just picturing her, you know, as the reader makes you understand some of the social implications that could be possible. And then what is explicitly stated is like people who don't come from the like noble courtly families are like commoners, and so she, you know, does not come from these like privileged families. So she is an underdog, and she is so excellent at what she does, and because of some bitches, she has been done wrong. We actually still don't know who is getting murdered, so I'm hoping that comes really soon, but I know who I want it to be now. And although not every fantasy book needs to have a romance, I do think that there is a certain pairing in here and a certain situation that would lend itself really well to a romance. So I'm kind of hoping that that does happen, because I feel like it's being set up that way a little bit. And if it just fizzles out into nothing, I will be disappointed. If something else happens with that pairing, that's fine, but I don't want it to just like be nothing. So our grand total of reading this book on Wednesday was about 100 pages. I finished at around 168 pages. I believe I started the day at like 66. Finally found out who got murdered, how it happened. So right now we're kind of in the beginning of the aftermath of that. So I'm actually looking forward to sitting down right now and reading some more. It's Thursday evening. I did go to work today. So yeah, 100 pages is not too bad. About 15 of those pages I listened to in the audiobook. I got a free trial of something so that I could try it out, but I didn't actually like it that much. So I'm just going to continue reading this, even though I do kind of struggle to just sit for hours and read physically. I prefer to have an audiobook and to color or do a puzzle or walk, but I can walk on my walking pad and read this, so I think I'm going to do that a bit tonight. I also read a bit more of A Magical Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, there we go, today on my drive to and from work, and I think I'm about 55% of the way through. It is cute. There is a strong found family element. We have kind of misfits who are all finding solace at this magical inn, and I think I mentioned before that when Sarah was younger, she cast a spell that like everyone who comes to the inn is kind and deserving and needs something from the inn and has good intentions, and so it is very comforting in that sense. The love interest, Luke, is staying there with his autistic little sister who he kind of has guardianship over, and they're kind of stuck because Luke doesn't know what to do with his sister. The parents don't really know how to handle her magical abilities, which I feel like could be kind of a metaphor for like parents who aren't good at caring for their autistic children. He and his sister Posey have found like solace at this inn, which is very cute, but there are reasons why he doesn't want to stay there. Obviously it's not really like a long-term solution when you just like are staying at an inn, so I'm curious to see how that goes. I really hope they do end up like staying there forever because it is a really cute setting, so I'm enjoying it. Nothing to write home about. I don't think it's going to be like a new favorite. I don't think I'm going to be thinking about it a lot after I'm done, but I am currently really enjoying it while I'm driving or cooking or cleaning, and it's just a lovely time. Maybe a little bit on the boring side. That is kind of the downside to some of these cozier books. Resting on top of a cat tree. Good morning, it's Monday. I am on page 350 of the Raven Scholar, and we've gotten some very interesting reveals that make me very excited to pick this up later. I might actually take this to work so that I can read this on my break, which is a good sign that I'm really into it. I did finish The Princess Stakes last night, so I will give a more in-depth synopsis and review later today when I get home from work. I think this vlog is going to end when I finish both The Raven Scholar and A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. So yeah, let's keep reading. let's talk about The Princess Stakes by Amelie Howard. So this is a book that I started reading before this vlog started. Definitely wasn't the focus of this vlog, which is why I wasn't like in a rush to finish it. This is a historical romance book, and we have our main girl, Princess Sarani. She is an Indian princess, and at the beginning of the book, her family is actually killed in a coup. She has to flee India, and she knows that the person who killed her father was also intending to kill her as well, so she really needs to, you know, escape. The man whose ship she ends up on is actually someone that she has a past with. He is an Englishman who she met when she was a teenager, and they had a bit of a romance, and things ended badly just because of their situations and how different they are and all of the prejudices and duty that she has to her people. And so the first part of this book really is us learning about their history while they're on this ship, and it has a very like pirates feel. Obviously they're not exactly pirates, but to me, anything where you're on a ship in like the olden 1700s, 1800s feels like pirates. And I really loved the first half of this book. I was having such a good time. I thought the pirate boat setting was so fun. And then we have this Englishman who is very critical of the British Empire, and he's woke. He knows what's up, which is very unrealistic, obviously, and I think some people might not like this book. I think the author does her best to show like how critical our male main character is of the British Empire and how he doesn't agree with a lot of the horrible things that are going on, but at the same time she doesn't make the book like too heavy because it is still a romance, so I thought she had a good balance with that. However, the second half of the book is a different setting, which I found not as exciting. I thought it was maybe too long, or I don't know, I just wish that we had been on the ship for a lot longer. So I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. I did like it. During the first half I thought it was going to be like a 4 at least, but it did lose me a little. I did really like their dynamic. I especially really liked, again, how unique it felt on the ship and having this kind of high stakes plot, just because, you know, she's running from death. They have a past history. There's all of this like social prejudice against them, and she's like hiding her identity. It's just a lot of plot for a Regency romance. But yeah, 3.5 stars. I will definitely keep reading from this author and also look for more like adventurous historical romance. And then really quickly, I wanted to say I feel like I didn't do a good job of explaining that the contestants in these trials are competing to become the emperor, and there are 8 guardian figures who some believe are real and some believe are just metaphors. So it's definitely like a religion where, you know, people don't know if it's real or not real. Obviously this is a fantasy book, so odds are that the supernatural beings are going to be real, otherwise it's not really a fantasy book. And one of the like guardians is a dragon, and the dragon people don't actually compete for the throne because they have like a separate government, so it's actually only 7 people competing for the emperor. And I updated you this morning at 350 pages. I'm at 456 pages right now, which is amazing because I read like 70 pages of this at work. It was like slow in the morning, so I got to read this in the morning at work, and then I read on my lunch break, and then I read a little after work. I'm having a great time. It takes a lot for me to read that much on a work day, so clearly this really has my attention. I probably won't say too much more about this just because I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm very intrigued. I'm excited to see the scope that this series is going to take on, because obviously we can't have 3 books that are just about, you know, solving this murder and this trial for emperor. This is the first book in a trilogy. So I'm really excited to see where this author leaves us off at the end. Even though I don't even think that the second book has a release date or anything. I don't typically read big chunky high fantasy books right when they're published, like in the same year. Like I'm usually reading backlist fantasy books that people love that are like popular favorites. So it's kind of unusual for me to have to wait a really long time for a sequel. So I might end up buying myself a copy of this book when the second book comes out so that I can refresh myself on the details. Anyway, all that is to say, I'm really enjoying this. 30 pages left. Only 30 pages left. Tis Wednesday, and yesterday I did end up finishing both A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping and The Raven Scholar. This vlog is going to end today, but before I tell you about those two books, I did want to say I have started reading Fear the Flames. I'm not going to extend this vlog to encompass this book. I am buddy reading this with my friend Sarah. I got to page 31 today while I was at work and before work, and this book so far is giving bad writing, poor world building. It's giving, hey, here are tropes that are popular in fantasy romance books. Put them together, and it's a story. It feels like a book that is written specifically to sell to people who watch TikToks about romantasy books. Does that make sense? However, I did pay full price for this book, $30. And I am buddy reading it, so I'm going to read more. I'm not promising that I'm going to finish this, but I think DNFing this before like 50 pages would be a little crazy. So I'm probably going to read to page like 70 and see how it goes. But 30 pages in, we have already gotten like banter between our main love interests. And so it just feels like, I don't like it. I really don't like it. This is not helping beat the romantasy is just poorly written fantasy with smut allegations. So, and by romantasy, I mean books written in the past few years that are specifically marketed as romantasy. I'm not saying that fantasy books with romance in them suck. I'm saying like contemporary romantasy might suck, in my opinion. So stay tuned on my channel and my Instagram to see my final experience with this. My final experience with this book, however, was 5 fucking stars. So much so that I actually ordered myself a special edition from Pango Books. Did I spend more money than one particularly should? Yeah, I did. But it's a really beautiful special edition. I've already read the book and loved it, and it is a trilogy, so I will need to have the book to, skim through before I read the second one. Am I going to be able to get my hands on the special edition for the second book? Probably not, but I don't really care that much if I have like special edition, regular edition, regular edition. So anyway, I enjoyed this a lot. I think my comment about this being a mix of like East Asian inspired fantasies and like Western Europe inspired fantasies, like it's a mesh of those in terms of vibes. It reminded me a little bit of the Poppy War. And yeah, I think lovers of high fantasy, more complex fantasy will really like this. If you're looking for something quick and easy, this is not it, but if you're willing to put the time in, highly recommend. And if you're not willing to put the time in, that's fine. It's okay to just read like shorter, easier fantasy books. I don't want to judge anyone, but yeah. So this does take a little bit of brain power, but I wouldn't say it's particularly like hard to understand. So 5 stars. I really loved this. I'm almost feeling like I'm getting into a slump post this book. And then A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. I don't have much to say about it. I'm giving it 3 stars. It was okay. It was good. Boring, which seems to be the problem with a lot of cozy fantasies for me, is that they're just boring. I really liked the characters. I think that was the strong point. of the book for me. There were some cute moments for sure that I really liked, but overall it just wasn't a super strong like. So 3 stars feels appropriate. And that's going to be all for this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more bookish content from me, and I hope you have a lovely week.